Brad Williams, Frugal Finance, spot rates. What's a spot rate? The price right now, the current price. If you're looking at the stock market, it is whatever you see, whatever that tick is. If you're looking at bond prices, whatever that price is, that's the spot price. That is what you would pay if you elect to go and buy that right now. There's a lot of other options out there where you're not going to deal with the spot rate. You can buy forwards or futures or options or other instruments, but spot rate, that's our focus here. What are we going to do? We're going to extract the spot rates from the yield to maturity. What? Yep, that's what we're going to do. Why? Because that's pretty much the fundamentals of bootstrapping. And why do we bootstrap? Because we need it for derivative. Now, if you're not interested in all at derivatives, you can just do a quick review of this or move on. Pretty much from here we are in lesson 4 of all of the different courses. From here forward, it's pretty much going to be a derivative. We're going to be focusing on derivatives of one kind or another. You need to price every derivative. If you want just a fundamental approach and understanding of derivatives, then hang on, because we're going to cover all kinds of stuff. And go back and look at the different courses, and you're going to say, well, I can see how that's a derivative. Okay, options are a derivative. Well, they're actually synthetic, but options and futures, we're going to look at interest rate options, we're going to look at futures, we're going to look at swaps, a lot of swaps, just a whole mix. We're going to look at structured deals. If you're looking at CMOs, and we're not going to get very deep into that, but I might as well just throw that out right now. Yield to maturity and spot rates. Extract spot rates from the yield to maturity. Spot rate is estimated from 2-year rates as follows. So you're asking yourself, spot rates? What? All right, you remember I showed you that treasury deal? And I said, well, yeah, with this 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Well, what if you don't have that information? How are you going to go about determining the spot price for a 2 year or 3 year or 4 year? You can't go out too terribly far. It gets kind of messy after the 5th year. But the following table provides prices and yields on 1 to 5 year bonds and extract the spot rates from yield to maturity. The 1, 2, 3 year that I showed you on the treasuries, were those the yield to maturity? If that was the par rate, the prices are accurate, then the yield to maturity, you're going to have to calculate that. Here, the spot rate is projected from the 2-year rate as shown below. Price of 2-year bond is equal to the coupon. Let's assume those treasury, that was the coupon. 1 plus R to the 1 plus face value plus coupon 2, 1 plus R to 2. Assuming the bond is priced at par, and that's a big assumption, 1,000 is equal to 42.50. Here we're going to get into some messiness here because we're dealing with R2, 2. So we're going to have a square root issue because this is squared. So we'll go square root 104.2, 50, 1,000. So we're going to get 4.255 on, so 42553 rounded up. Let's look and see there. You can see it right here. I will stretch this out. So there you go. 4253. What does that mean? That is the price right now for that 2 year. And then 440, you're going to see 44048. You're going, well, what does that mean? That means the price right now, based on this yield to maturity, is going to be 4088. The spot rate is estimated from the 2-year rate as follows. And we're just going to repeat this. So we have a spot rate of 426. The spot rate is estimated from the 2 years as follows. Solving for R, we just did that. We want to verify this. We have 4.26. What are we going to solve for? Go to 425, divide this by 1.04, plus 104,250. Why? Because that's what our price is. And then 1 plus C39, which is going to be 426. We're going to come back with a verification of 1,000. You're going to see as we move forward where I'm verifying a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot of rounding issues here. If I took this number here, it should be a little bit closer because I hard coded this. You're going to see this 44 here. That 44 may have some change. And what I mean, literally, it could be 44.0077. So that's why you're going to see this trailing 04 or 13 and 28. But you could fine tune that if you need to. And you might need to, because again, that could be an arbitrage situation and the computers will take it out and they will arbitrage that. So it equals 1,000. The spot rate on a multi-period bond is an average rate that applies over the period. Forward rate is one period rate for a future period and can be extracted from the spot rates. The forward rate, here we go. Remember, I was throwing out some foreign language before, but now it's not so foreign. I kept saying forward rates, and we'll get to it. Well, here we're getting to it. Trying to tell you and show you are two different things. So I can tell you about it, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So here we have the spot rate. That's the price now. Forward rate is one period rate for a future period and can be extracted from the spot rates. For instance, if S of 2 is the 2-period spot rate and S of 1 is the 1-period spot rate, the forward rate for the second period, F of 2, can be obtained as follows. F of 2 is equal to 1 plus S of 2, that means 2 periods forward. Divide this by 1 plus period 1 minus 1. We're going forward and then we're going back. Forward and back. That's what we're doing. And that's what makes this challenging because we don't think this way. Now, some of you, this just come natural and you can visualize this. But for most of us, we're just looking at the math going, all right, if you say so. So the forward rate for period 3 can be extracted using the spot rate for periods 2 and 3. And in general, the forward rate for period X can be written as F of 2 is equal to 1 plus, and then I just left S of X there, X1. Instead of just talking formulas, why don't we see what we're talking about here? Remember, we have that yield to maturity. We know how to get that spot rate. We can use this formula up here. Remember, I said you have to use the tools. Use the tools. So here, we use the square root. Well, here's another way to do it. Spot rate is estimated from the 2-year rate as follows. You have this coupon, 1 plus face value plus coupon. Here, we don't see the square root. You're going to have to use it one place or another because you have this blank spot here. Use this formula. Notice the difference. You can't do this without the spot. You're going to have to find that yield to maturity. So remember that yield to maturity calculation. I left this blank. I should have a formula there, but this is hard-coded. And then you have your spot rate. The 1 year is just going to be the spot rate and the forward. You can see here the spot rate is the yield to maturity. The forward is going to be the same. Now, year 2, you're going to go 426. The forward rate is going to be 104.26 right here, squared. Divide this by 1.04 right above it. Here, we're going to use 441, and then we're going to use 426 to come up with the forward rate. And we're just going to do that pattern constantly. That's how you determine forwards. What does this mean? That means if you're looking at buying a 2-year using a forward contract, that's the yield. You're going to have to determine, well, what's the price? Forward calculated, 4, and then 452, 471, 481, 491. All I did was break this down. Here's the actual breakdown of the formula. If you're asking, well, how does this work? It goes 0.184, and then you divide this by this. So you get D74 divided by E74 to come up with 454. Why do I do this? Just curiosity more than anything. When you talk about spot rates and forward rates and yield to maturity and yield, it's a bit to undertake. It's not something that comes natural. So we're just going to take baby steps here. There's a quick introduction to calculating spot rates and forward rates. Now hold on. When we get to section 3, don't hang up. What I mean by that is don't shut it off and just say, I quit. This is all about making an investment. What do I mean by making an investment? I prepared this document. So I spent the time putting it together. Why? Because when I read this for the first time, I'm scratching my head going, what does this mean? But then I just started breaking it down piece by piece. For example, I break this down. Why? Curiosity more than anything. Something struck me as to why is this number the number that it is? So I just break it down. Well, this next section, I broke it down. So hold on, get ready, here we go. Brad Williams, Frugal Finance, on to bootstrapping.